Isekai, fantasy, assassination, and learning to be a merchant. All of this and a little bit more in volume number 1 of The World's Finest Assassin Gets Reincarnated in Another World as an Aristocrat. This one written by Rui Tsukiyo with illustrations by Reia. It is translated by Luke Hutton and released officially in English by Yen On. If you want to pick up your own copy of this one, I'll have a link in the description down below. Now, in The World's Finest Assassin, our main character, who will eventually become known as Lou, well, he gets taken out by the competition, or perhaps even by his own people. It's not exactly clear. In any case, he finds himself face to face with a goddess who says to him, "Hey, I've got another world that I bet you would love to live in, and I can even set you up in a pretty comfy spot in that world if you do me one solid favor. When you get a little bit older, the world will be threatened by a demon lord. But don't worry, you don't have to do anything about the demon lord. There is going to be, in fact, a hero who's going to take that demon lord out, no problemo. Only problemo is that the hero is going to become even worse than the demon lord and do far more damage and leave the world a burning husk. Can you kill that hero just as soon as he's done with the demon lord? Because I really don't want that to happen." Well, of course, you're the world's finest assassin. What are you going to say? One hit for a lifetime of luxury? Yeah, no problem. However, just to spice it up a little bit, he does make sure that there is a condition that, hey, if the demon lord's defeated and the hero doesn't become evil, like, that's mission accomplished. Whether I take a guy out or I kill the demon lord or whatever, it doesn't really matter, right? And, well, the goddess isn't against the idea, just as long as the hero doesn't become a monster. And so our assassin named Lou now in this new world heads off and finds that the aristocratic family he's been born into just conveniently also happens to be the top family of assassins in this world. And so he begins a journey of learning magic and assassination techniques in a world of fantasy, magic, and, well, heroes and demons. The World's Finest Assassin does indeed have a couple of really good ideas. I really like the setup of this one. Somebody going to another world not to deal with the demon lord, but in fact to deal with a hero who becomes corrupted. It's a little bit different, kind of cool. I also appreciate the fact that regardless of just kind of how OP the main character is compared to the average Joe, he realizes right from the get-go he is no way going to be capable of taking down the hero in a straight-on fight, hence the need for him being an assassin. That the only way this hero is getting taken out is purely going to be if he can do it in stealth and unexpectedly. So I was kind of like, okay, this is cool. We're not just going to run the, I can swing a sword 10,000 times faster, harder, and stronger than anyone else, or cast magic that's 10,000 times more powerful than anybody else. We're actually going to have some kind of cool training, like some cool and stealthy assassination. I was really looking forward to all that, and really, this first volume doesn't deliver on that, unfortunately. Overall, if I'm going to talk about problems with this book, and yeah, there are some problems with this book. First off is the pacing. We really don't get very deep into Lou's training as an assassin. In fact, the majority of this book is focused on very much slice-of-life moments. At first, we have Lou starting to learn magic, and we have this young girl who's brought in to help train him. He kind of falls in love with her, which is, I guess, a little strange, because she's like 10 and he's like 7, but inside he's actually like old. But anyway, we'll move on from the creepy factor. But at least it was kind of like, hey, we're setting this up to be like a one girl kind of book. I'm put aside the creepy thing and it's okay. And it is about their relationship and about how they start to learn how to craft new spells and such together. And it was at least nice because the two of them seemed to be on a really equal level in terms of what they each could bring to the table. So I enjoyed that part, but again, very more slice of life and explaining the whole magic system of this world. Then we get like some quick little bits where Lou's being trained to be an assassin, some quick little fighting about in between the family about whether he's good enough to be the head of the family eventually. And then we spend a whole chunk of Lou being away from home learning to be a merchant, because supposedly it's really important that he set up like a false identity just in case, which I guess is not completely out of the blue, but it means that the pacing of the book feels a little strange, because you go slice of life, not so much slice of life, I'm waiting for assassinations, we get an assassination and it's over in like a page and a half, slice of life. The pacing of this one just seems a little bit all over the place. And really, for all the talk of how this main character is the world's greatest assassin in our world, and how in our world he was trained to basically to be an emotionless weapon, and in this world, because he's been raised with affection and caring, how it's changing him as a person, and a lot of this just feels like lip service. There's never really a time in the book that I truly felt the weight of this person's past. There was never a time that I truly saw character development other than for him to tell me that I'm developing as a character. Except for one time when he commits an assassination and for all of a sentence he feels a little woozy and then kind of gets over it. Also, when we can talk about it being pacing, but well, the author of this book is also author of Redo of a Healer. Now, you may be familiar with that one because it's currently airing as an anime, and oh boy, there's it is, there are all sorts of themes of like rape and people being drugged and like terrible, horrible, awful revenge. Thankfully, none of that stuff is in this book. However, it does kind of feel like you get about 2/3 of the way into the book and all of a sudden the author decides, oh yeah, right, I'm writing a light novel. I need to check some boxes. So we have this main character who's really devoted just to this one girl, and even though there's 2 other girls that are in his circle, he just sees them as trusted friends and allies. Well, no, that's not good enough. We can't just have like one monogamous relationship in here. We've got to introduce the themes that, hey, noblemen, it's cool for them to marry the one girl but still have girls on the side. And, oh, you know, like, how about we have like, go into depth about how he has a wet dream one night while the 2 girls are in bed with him, and how about we suddenly have Mom act really creepy around him now that he's a man. It's just weird all of a sudden. I was like, am I reading a different book? And this was already after Lou had made this odd statement that one of the girls, when he first meets her, he's like, and I used techniques from my old life to manipulate her so that she would give her life for me. What? But then, he spends the whole rest of the book being really kind to her and sincerely caring about her. And it, even though I suppose into the author's mind this was a manipulating because it was carried over from his other life, there really wasn't enough build up to that to make it sound anything other than creepy. Even the final major battle that there's all this kind of build up to, and Lou's gonna face this guy that you're like, oh my god, for once he's actually gonna face somebody who's really a challenge, and wow, it ended really quick. Again, kind of a pacing thing. I think the problem of this book is that you go in with certain expectations, and those expectations aren't always met. As I said, for me, I kind of was looking forward to the more cool maybe I was hoping for Assassin's Creed. now that I sit here thinking about it, maybe I was kind of hoping like that it would be like Assassin's Creed, which is really, really not even a little bit like that. But as I said, I really wish there had been more character development. I really wish that we had had more showing us and not so much telling us. I kind of wish that the characters weren't kind of cookie cutter characters. And I kind of wish that he had just stayed the course. An assassin brought to another world to learn how to be an even better assassin so he can kill a hero. But I'm on board for that. I'm still thinking that's a great idea. And perhaps this book goes some cool places. This series goes some cool places with that. Because, well, I won't spoil what happens towards the end. But, you know, it kind of sets up some stuff that you're thinking, this could be interesting. This could go kind of some interesting ways. Especially when you keep it in your head that you're like, he doesn't necessarily have to kill the hero. He just has to make sure that the Demon Lord goes down and that the hero isn't becoming evil. It gives you wiggle room that this book could go some interesting places. I think it's kind of like I said to Sean Gaffney at one point. I said it is a light novel that has pretty much all the stuff that you're afraid it has, but still manages to have a couple of cool ideas that makes you wish that it had done more with them. Now, is the book irredeemably awful? Well, I think that's really going to depend again on what you're coming into with this book, and it's really going to depend on what you want this book to deliver. If you are coming into this book knowing, because you've watched this wonderful review, that a lot of it's going to be much more slice of life type fantasy stuff, and you're not going to have cool assassinations and such, then, you know, perhaps you'll enjoy it a little more. If you go into it realizing that the author is a little bit cringy, then maybe you won't be as creeped out when you come across those cringy parts. Again, I'm doing you all a favor here. And this may just be one of those series that the first book that has to do a whole ton of setup is the weakest of the series. I really don't know. Again, the idea is kind of solid, and there's a couple of other little sort of tricks and such in there that I'm not mentioning for the sake of spoilers that, again, kind of made me think, this could go some interesting places. It's just whether you can get past some of that cringe factor. Perhaps even the oddest part of this book is that we have a side character named Maha, who is also well, I don't want to spoil her backstory, but we get a chapter from her first-person perspective. This is a break because otherwise it has almost been entirely Lou's first-person perspective. In this single chapter, we probably get more character development and growth than we do anywhere else in the book. However, on the flip side, this is also a chapter that, even though it does not graphically show it, again, thank God, it does have child prostitution, attempted rape, child mutilating themselves because they were sold into prostitution. God, this book is cringy and horrible. There's a lot of really ugly stuff in this book now that I'm sitting here talking about it. Anyway, although, like I said, oddly enough, it's the one chapter where we actually have a character who has some significant character growth to then just become kind of like a lemming that follows Lou around and does his bidding and only wants to do what he wants her to do. And it's kind of unfortunate, honestly, because she could have been a much more interesting character. So, all in all, the world's finest assassin gets reincarnated as another world aristocrat. Yeah. I mean, I didn't completely despise the book. As I said, I think it's because the ideas excited me, but the execution left a lot to be desired. And there were certainly some moments in the book that I just was... So, I don't know. I mean, again, I think there's enough good ideas that there could potentially be good stuff beyond this first book, that maybe it's just really rough because it's a first volume, or things could get even worse and cringier in future volumes, which I gotta say I'm out if that's the case. In any way, that is my review of this first volume of the World's Finest Assassin. Yeah, you know, and don't hate me for this one, okay? You got lots of other books that I absolutely love, but I don't think this was one of them, honestly. I'm kind of glad CL was going to read this, and I told her, maybe not, especially when I found out that it was written by the dude who did Redo of Healer. Yeah, probably a good call on my part. In any case, yeah, that's the review, so you guys do with it what you will. If you've read it, what do you think? What are your thoughts? Feel free to throw them down in the comments down below, just to keep them spoiler-free for the people that, after watching this, still have it in their head that they want to read it. In this video, I want to say a special thanks to Mitchell Von Region, Yun, Renzaz, Shelly Ann, and Drone205 for their support on Patreon, as well as the support of all of my patrons who help to keep the channel running, as well as support all of my other projects like the Light Novel Podcast and EnglishLightNovels.com. So for my next review, I'm gonna kind of go back to some territory that I know what to expect, because it's a volume 2 of a series I recently read the first volume of, and that's funny enough going to be getting an anime, I believe, in the spring season, and that'll be volume number 2 of the Pretty Boys Detective Club. That'll be my next one. Until then, thank you for joining me in this video. I look forward to seeing you in my next one. Till then, bye-bye for now.